We'll call to order the July Finance Committee for the Diversion Authority to order. And first order of business will be roll call of the members present.
Mr. Montplaisir?
Here.
Mr. Peterson? Mr. Costin?
Here.
Ms. Johnson? Here. Ms. McCall? Here. Mr. Jacobson?
Here.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Here.
Mr. Steen?
Yes.
Mr. Gehrig? Mr. Redlinger?
Here.
Dr. Mahoney? Mr. Grinberg?
Here. Quorum declared. Next item 2, approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Is there a motion?
So
Moved.
Moved and seconded by Rick and Carla. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same side. Motion carried.
Aye.
Thank you, Chuck. Approval of bills.
I'll move the bills.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify. We do a roll call? Yeah, we do a roll call.
Mr. Montplaisir?
Yes.
Mr. Costin?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McCall? Yes. Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Yes.
Mr. Steen?
Yes.
Mr. Redlinger?
Yes.
Mr. Grinberg?
Yes. Kent, number 4.
Okay, number 4 with regard to financial status reports. We'll go through them one at a time. Page 13, 2019 spend is $28,084,540, and the cumulative spend on project life to date is $481,817,562. And if you flip to the following page on page 14, you can see our net position is going up as the money has continued to come in, $97,254,759. And there is a sizable receivable there from the State Water Commission. That's just a timing issue, the $9,066,000 that's listed there. And then on page 15, budget to actual year-to-date, $28 million spent on a $162 million budget, so we're still comfortably within budget in that regard. Page 16 is the total expenditures, and I just wanted to note there was a reimbursement to the city of Fargo on here for the debt that was assumed for the in-town levy projects. You'll see that 3.5 and the 1.4, the second and third to the last entry on page 17. And I think you're all familiar with that process. And the other reports are there as typically provided. I don't have any specific comments unless there are questions.
Questions?
Why is the cash balance, you have to excuse me for being not as familiar with everything, but why are we carrying so much more cash than expended? I mean, what isn't being expended? Is there things coming up that are going to?
Well, I think we've been in a period of delay for many months with regard to the project in general. So the sales tax receipts come in every month, they accumulate. And then I think because of that $9 million expenditure, we were doing some catch up on one of our reimbursements to the state. In the state appropriations, they allow us to draw 10% of the administrative expenses as soon as we get the obligation awarded, if we have expended those funds, and we have. So I think that's probably one of the reasons it's, that could have been, it would have been $6 million draw that just goes right into the treasury.
And can I just ask, how is this excess cash that's idle right now being invested? As to who manages?
Yeah, the city manages that, just like their other reserves. I think we're earning about 2% or so, and it's partially funded in just a money mark type government securities account, and then there are some individual securities as well, but it's managed much like we do the rest of the city. Thank you.
Maybe
Good questions.
Maybe just as a refresher, the outstanding encumbrances are amounts that we anticipate yet by year end. Is that the way we should look at that? The 83.7 million?
Yeah, and I think there's some attempt, I'm not keyed in on the exact process, but like for land acquisitions and mitigation work, 42 million worth of encumbrances, that's likely to be spent this year on land acquisitions. And I think they're estimating the cash flow there. I don't really know what it's going to be until they're ready to close on the property.
Maybe just another way to refresh everyone's memory, if that was at the end of the year and we actually spent the outstanding encumbrances plus current, we'd have 50 million that wasn't spent this year on budget.
Correct.
Yep. Other questions? Move to accept the financial report. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mike and Carla. Discussion? Hearing none.
Mr. Montplaisir?
Yes.
Mr. Costin?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Yes.
Mr. Steen?
Yes.
Mr. Redlinger?
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg?
Aye. 6A, Kim.
All right, the PMC financial report for July 24th, 2019, the overall program status. Based on the 2018 dollars for the program budget of $2.75 billion, actual cost to date as of June 30th, 2019 is $468,903,000, leaving a remaining budget of $2.285 billion. The backup is provided, the breakdown is provided in the packet. On the fiscal year 2019 cash budget, the total budget of $162,723,000 paid to date as of June 30th, 2019 is $28,084,540, leaving a remaining budget of $134,639,000. And again, the breakdown is in the packet.
Questions?
Just a point maybe, we're halfway through the year and not close to halfway through our budget. Is there some big expenditures you anticipate coming soon, or we just didn't, we budgeted more than we're actually going to spend?
So a lot of the land acquisition stuff will be coming forward with purchase agreements. So we're expecting a lot to be closed, in the latter half of the year. So that will take up a big chunk of that. So yet we realize that the spend doesn't match the schedule right yet. But I think we're gonna get closer as we get towards the end of the year.
Thank you.
Continue.
On the contracting actions? Okay. There are no DA board approval contract actions for this month, or this month, and to report. On co-executive director approved contract actions, there was a task order 25 amendment 3 for HMG at a budget amount of $146,561 for hydrology and hydraulic modeling. And there was an amendment 1 to task order 30, again for HMG, for zero budget change. That was a reallocation for property structure mitigation services. On Cass County Joint Water Resource District approved contract actions, again, this is for information only. There was amendment 2 to task order 1, appraisal package number 3 for Compass. That was a deduct of $192. There was a amendment 1 to task order 1 for appraisal package number 8, that's GEB, that's $3,500 budget increase. And there was amendment 1 to task order 2, appraisal package number 10 to Patch and Mesner, again, a budget increase of about $1,000. And that was it on contracting actions.
Questions? Kent?
I do have what might be a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Under this Phase 9 modeling, is one to conclude that that means there was a Phase 1 through 8, that we've done all this modeling? And when you read the text, we're going to do floodplain mapping of existing conditions and with project conditions. And so do you start to wonder, at least I do in my own mind, isn't that the type of work we would have already done in phases 1 through 8, or are we continuing to chase Plan B with the realignment after all that work happened? So I ask it just as kind of an open-ended question to try to understand more about what our design consultants are doing. So I wonder if somebody could comment on that.
Greg is here.
Thanks. My name is Greg Thielman with Houston Moore Group. I'm one of the project managers for our team. And the modeling on this project goes back to shortly after the 2009 flood. You know, that would have been probably phase one when some of the initial modeling was developed, and the project has changed multiple times since then as a result of effort. You know, the original project had downstream impacts, and we changed to the staging area. Then the staging area was changed. And we're also chasing design efforts that the Corps is doing as we try to update things. So phase 9 incorporates the Plan B changes, and a component of phase 9 is what was submitted as part of the CLOMAR. So it goes back about 10 years, and you're right, there has been a lot of modeling done, but there's also been a lot of changes to the project over the years.
Then I have a follow-up question then. So next year when we get ready to do the P3 contracting, are their hands tied tightly with regard to creativity, or is there still an opportunity for them to bring additional creativity then that would open up a different design, a different path, and maybe some monetary savings as a result of the P3?
I'll maybe talk modeling, and then I'll hand it off to John to talk the other details. But the phase 9 modeling is what will be handed over to the P3 proposers, and the technical specs will reflect, you know, the general criteria.
Thank you. Great question. So yes, the P3 teams will be able to have some creativity in the design. They have to operate within the hydraulic modeling and also within the environmental permitting requirement. But within that, the teams are allowed to submit what are called innovative technical concepts for review. And those can include cost savings. Generally, the cost savings for consideration are in the $8 to $10 million. And the performance specs themselves allow for some creativity. I would caution, though, that doesn't mean that we'll be moving the channel alignment. That is clearly something that is dictated by permitting requirements. But what we can gain from the P3 is perhaps there's better bridge design, perhaps there's a better way to, you know, construct the channel. Maybe the slopes can be constructed in a different manner.
Thank you for that detail. That helps.
Further questions? Item 7, property status report.
Property status report was included in the packet, and if there are any questions, Eric Dodds is here to answer them.
Got to find a reason to get Eric to the podium. Mr. Chair. Mr. Steen.
I just have a quick question beyond property status, but I haven't driven down south. Is the Corps underway with their continuation of the project, or what's the time frame? I haven't driven down there for a while.
Yes, so the Corps is in the process of dewatering the site before they get back on, start digging again, I guess.
Dewatering.
A lot of water.
Got it. So where are they moving the water to? That's always a question, right? If someone gets rid of water, it goes somewhere else. That's what this is all about. So where's the water going? In the river? I'm just curious.
Eric Dodds, A2S. The Corps, as was noted, is dewatering the big hole. At one point, it was estimated to have 70 to 75 million gallons of water in the hole, and then we had 4 or 5 inches of rain on top of that. So from a dewatering standpoint, I know Matt from the county worked real closely with the Corps on this as well. They have a pipe strung out along the north ditch of County Road 16 going west, and that pipe enters into Legal Drain 50, which goes north into the Cheyenne River. So they're working on that dewatering now. They've got some big pumps down in the hole pumping water out. It's estimated to probably take 3 to 4 weeks for them to pump the water out. And then, as I understand it, they'll be, at that point, getting ready to start doing some of the load pile testing, basically driving piles.
Just to add to that, they've been pumping for 3 to 4 weeks.
I don't believe that they got started as early as we had hoped because of the weather. I don't know that for sure, but.
Worth a drive out there, just see how big the pumps are.
Yep. Matt was here at the earlier meeting, and he shared with us that you can see it dropping now. He was out there this morning. So.
Anything you'd like to share on the property status?
We're making progress. I think last month I pointed out that we had a number of appraisals that had been approved, and so this month you'll see that a lot of those properties on the western half of the channel, west of West Fargo, have now been color-coded blue, which means they're in negotiations. And so we've got a team of land agents out meeting with property owners. This is probably really the harder part of the process. Some property owners are very willing to have meaningful negotiations, and some maybe not as much, but we're working hard on that, and I think we're making good progress. So.
Questions for Eric? Next meeting is August 21st, upstairs in the River Room. Make a note of that in your calendars. Mainly for the reason we're in a rotation with the room use, I believe. Other business? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same side, motion carried. We are adjourned until 21st of August.